Hello, everyone. So it is beginning of May. So we've had about 4 months of reading in 2025 so far. And I want to go through the fiction books that I've read so far and talk about the best and the worst and the in between. So I'm going to go through the books in order of when I read them. So the first book I finished was The Maniac by Benjamin Labatut. This book is historical fiction about John von Neumann. And the book kind of goes through John von Neumann's life, and it's written so well. And it ends with kind of an exploration in his legacy in AI. I loved most of this book. I was a little taken aback by the AI section because it was so different from the rest of the book. The tone was so different. I think I just need to reread this one. And this is definitely a reread. This is a difficult book. This is a brilliant book. This author is absolutely incredible. The other book I read by him last year was, I think, When We Cease to Understand the World, which was kind of a similar historical fiction about scientists and atomic energy. I really like this author. If there's anything else he's written, I got to get my hands on it. But The Maniac is definitely one of the more serious, and also got to reread this one. But in terms of how much did I love it as a whole, I would say it's near the top, but it isn't the best. The next book I finished was Stephen King's The Gunslinger, and this is book one in the Dark Tower series. I also really enjoyed this book very much. And I actually got the sequel, to read next. And I heard that they just keep getting in better as he goes on through the series. And he actually went back and rewrote The Gunslinger book one, after he finished the series in order to just make it better. And this is the rewritten version. I have not read the original version, but I really enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite book. I can't say like, wow, I was blown off my feet, but it was good. It was good enough for me to wanting to continue the series. So I would put it probably in the same category as The Maniac. The next book I finished was Elizabeth Strout's Tell Me Everything. I have read almost everything by Elizabeth Strout. There's still a few books missing. This book follows, I think most of her characters kind of come together, her recent characters. We have Oliver Kittredge, Lucy Barton, the Burgess boys. They all kind of come together and they spend a lot of time talking about aging and their relationships. And there was so much brilliance in this book. But there was also some odd parts. This is not my favorite Elizabeth Strout book, even though it is a wonderful book. It is brilliant. My favorite Elizabeth Strout book, I think, is Say Anything, if I had to choose one. That one just blew me away, and it was mostly short stories. But this one was great. Again, I got to reread this one. I love Elizabeth Strout. I'm such a huge fan. The only storyline I'm not a fan of by Elizabeth Strout is the Lucy Barton books. But, Lucy Barton is a part of this book, and she's a good character. She's an interesting character. And I like how she wove her back in with the rest of the people and how the relationship she formed with with Olive Kittredge. This is a arc that I got, The Resurrectionist, and this is a kind of how would I say, gothic? It's a romance between two gravediggers who were digging up cadavers for medical students. And I really, really like this book. Again, it's not perfect, but it was really romantic. It was really sweet. It definitely made my heart flutter quite a bit. I thought the interactions between the two main characters were great. I really felt their romance and the struggle of the time period that they were in, to have that romance. So I would definitely recommend this book. It was really, really sweet. It was also very scary. This was kind of a violent, disturbing book. Yeah, people die. I was kind of surprised. It was such a it started out very kind of cutesy and sweet, and then people started dying, and I was like, what? Why are you killing such sweet characters? But yeah, I would love to get a finished copy of this book. So yeah, this one was great. The next book I finished was Mostly Harmless, and this was book 5. And sadly, I read the rest of the books in the series last year, so I can't include them here. But this one I finished beginning of the year of this year, and I really loved it. I really, really loved it. Maybe it was the time that I was reading it. I was kind of down, and this is a bit of a depressing book, but it was so well done. And Kitty says hello. And I love this one. This was such a great ending to this series that I love. And last time I read the series all the way through, I kind of ended up not reading this one. I read 1 through 4 and then I gave up. But this time I went through and finished 5, and I'm so glad I did because I really, really liked the way he finished the series and how he wrapped everything up. And I think it was the perfect way to do it. So again, great book. Next, I finished Vladimir, and this was one of those books where I tried reading it before. I ended up putting it back on the shelf because I wasn't really feeling it, and then I picked it back up again, and I wasn't really expecting much. I actually assumed I would not like it and that I would unhaul this book when I finished it, but then I loved it. I absolutely love this book. This book was so interesting and weird, and it definitely not romantic. I would definitely not call this romantic, but it was a very interesting exploration of aging and finding yourself and it was complicated. I don't want to spoil too much. And this is definitely a reread for me. I thought this was quite perfect. The ending really was amazing. I think that's what really tied everything up for me because not much happens. It's a lot of talk. It's this internal dialogue of this aging professor, this author, who is feeling kind of down on herself because she's met someone whose literary career is really picking up and hers is kind of winding down. And then it's just her internal monologue about this relationship and about her husband and about what's going on with him, and then everything just kind of goes off the rails, which I kind of loved very much. It really made sense to me. Next, I finished The Ministry of Time, and this one I was really interested in because of all the mixed reviews out there. That this book was winning awards and getting nominated for things while everyone was unhauling it and saying it was boring and they DNF'd it. So I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So I got it and I loved it. This is like a science fiction, historical fiction, romance slash thriller. And yeah, this had so much going on, but it was so many good things going on and that I was totally into. And the characters were so weird and quirky, and um, it was definitely, it definitely worked for me. I really enjoyed the ending, and I definitely can't wait to reread this book. This one was great. It was great. Next, I finished Show Don't Tell by Curtis Sittenfeld. And this is an arc that I got, and this is a collection of short stories, and I really enjoyed them. There were some really great stories in here. I actually was talking to a librarian the other day, and she did not care for this collection, but she loved her book Romantic Comedy. So you never know. But I really enjoyed this book, and the stories were there was a lot of variety in the stories, and every story that I finished, I thought, okay, that worked. That I enjoyed that. I mean, I can't say they're the most memorable, most amazing things I ever read, but as a whole, I enjoyed this because I know that Romantic Comedy got a lot of really mixed reviews, and that's another one that's been on my radar. But I really enjoyed this author's writing, so I'm optimistic that I will probably enjoy Romantic Comedy as well. But again, this is an arc, so I will probably let it go to see if I can find a finished copy. Next, I finished The Netanyahus, and this is a Pulitzer Prize winner from a few years ago. And this one sat on my shelf for many years, 2 or 3 years, and I really did not have any interest in it. I saw the name Netanyahu's, and I wondered if it was Benjamin Netanyahu, the current leader of Israel. But again, I was like, okay, I don't know what's it about. And then I watched another review of it on YouTube, and the reviewer said it was amazing and hilarious. So I was like, okay, if it's hilarious, I got to pick this one up. And yeah, this book was amazing. I loved this book. This book was just off the wall crazy. I couldn't put it down. I remember just sitting there reading it, just at the edge of my seat, like hyperventilating because of all the stuff that was happening in this book. And then at the very end, the author's like, oh, by the way, this is all sort of true. Like this all sort of kind of happened. Um, so anyway, yeah, I love this book. This book was great. That's definitely a keeper and a reread. The Wedding People. This is another book that I think this won the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Fiction. It was okay. It was okay. It was. I don't even know if I want to reread this. I feel like there were some good parts, but I feel like maybe at the end of this video, when I just rethink everything, I'm going to let this one go. It is such a pretty cover, and my shelves would really miss out on having such a pretty book on it. But is this book profound and full of substance? Does it have a lot to say? I mean, maybe something. Sometimes while reading this book, I would think to myself, that's a good way of looking at life. That's an interesting observation about something. I'm glad I'm reading this. But a lot of this book, I was thinking, this person is annoying. This is dumb. I don't like this. This is a bad way to portray suicidal thoughts. Yeah, it was just a lot of good and a lot of bad. So I don't know. I'm on the fence with this one. A part of me wants to reread it, and then the other part of me says it's not worth it. So that's where I'm at with The Wedding People. The Sellout. This book I struggled with, and this one won the Man Booker Prize a couple years ago. This novel is by Paul Beatty. Another book that has sat on my shelf for many years. And this year, I just said enough. I'm going to start reading these books that I have not been picking up. And this is one of those books that I picked up. And I just didn't get it for most of the book. I was just reading it, and I was like, okay, this is funny. This is clever. I like the writing. I like the characters. I don't understand what they're doing, though. This is very confusing. It starts out, the main character is before the Supreme Court for some reason, because he did something. He stirred something up. He started something crazy, and I could not understand what it was that he was doing. And it kind of goes through how he was raised, and he was raised by a social scientist who kind of abused him for the sake of social science, to just do like little social experiments on him. And so and then like about a 3/4, maybe 2/3, it's hard to tell when, but at some point I just kind of got it. I got what it was doing, what the crazy scheme he cooked up was, and I loved it since then. I thought that was brilliant. I actually was just laughing. I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. So I think this book I will enjoy more on the second read. So that's a keeper. The White Tiger. The White Tiger is another book that's been on my shelf forever. Finally picked it up. I did try reading it a couple years ago, and while I enjoyed it, I couldn't get attached to it, so I ended up putting it back on my shelf. But then this time I picked it back up again, read it all the way through, and absolutely loved it. I think this is probably my favorite book of the year so far. This book was just incredible. I loved it so much. It was I need to watch the show or the movie that's on Netflix. This book was amazing. It's a satire, dark comedy, talking about race in India, talking about not so much race, class and gender, and various discrepancies in poverty and wealth, and the service industry. And it was amazing. I love this book so much. The writing was incredible. I love the storyteller. I was totally like, I didn't even care what he did, the bad things he did, because he was obviously the bad guy. But I was like, I don't care. I love you as a narrator so much. I'm just with you on this journey. So I love The White Tiger. Next, I read 10 minutes, 38 seconds in This Strange World. And this is another Booker Prize nominee. And I just got this book for Christmas. And I've heard such incredible things. I enjoyed most of it. I did not like the ending. I thought the majority of this book was really good. But the more I think about it, the less I want to reread it. I don't think the writing is complicated enough for me to want to dive back into. It's a pretty easy read. And the story itself, it was good, but I don't know if I want to go through this again. I do feel like the characters were really not that deep or profound for me to connect with. So I'm probably going to let this one go. This was kind of a disappointment. I expected more, and I did not feel that this book rose to the next level for me, that next level of brilliance that I just want to keep and enjoy over and over again and kind of grow from. So that's unfortunate. I also got Exit West. This is another one of those books that I've picked up, the first chapter, put back. I finally finished it, and I liked it. It was good. It was very good. This is a exploration of refugees that are fleeing a war-torn country, and it explores their romance and their relationship as they find new places. And this book uses magical realism to help this couple find new places to live. So they travel to England, then they travel to the United States. They find communities, they explore their values and their relationship. I did think this book was very well reasoned. The relationship was very interesting. The journey was very interesting, and the conversations and self discovery that these characters went through was very good. So I enjoyed that, even though it was a very quick read. Next, I finished Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood, and I did not love this book as much as I thought I was going to love this book, because I love books that are dystopian science fiction, and this one fell a bit flat for me. I do want to reread this because it was definitely at the level of brilliance, especially the discussion of what the scientists did to end the human race, because that's kind of how it starts, where the human race is gone, or mostly gone. I think some people are still left, but scientists have generally managed to wipe out humanity somehow. And how that's done was very interesting to me. But the characters themselves that were around were not interesting. Oh, are you scratching yourself on the books? I guess he is. So the book as a whole, it didn't grab me. It didn't, like, for instance, Station 11. I love Station 11. That one totally grabbed me, but this one, not so much. I definitely felt a lot of elements of The Road and H.G. Wells' The Time Machine in this book. So I thought that was interesting. I read Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. I was enjoying this book, but it got old for me, because what it really is just nonstop commentary on humanity. And it's very, so there's a lot of pictures and talks about the pictures a lot. I don't know. I kept losing track of what the point of this book is. That was my biggest struggle, is like, why? What is the story? Who are the characters? The writing was great. So I definitely missed something. I missed something, and I need to reread this book. I want to reread this book because it was cute. I think this is a situation where I just wasn't smart enough to get this book. I've missed the main purpose, the main point of this. It got lost for me underneath all the silly stuff he was doing. So that's a challenge that I will have to that I will have to redo. Okay. Emily Henry's The People We Meet on Vacation. This is terrible, and I am unhauling it, and I don't want any more Emily Henry in my house. Obviously, I am not. I can't handle this literature. So, yeah, it was just. It was people who did things that were stupid that I didn't understand, and it was boring, and I hated it. So I can't. No. Tom Lake, Ann Patchett. This is another book that I struggled with the first time I picked it up, which was a year ago. I did not seem to connect to it. I think halfway, I decided I hated the characters and I did not care what happened to them, and I was done. So I picked it back up again and read it all the way through, and I liked it more the second time. There were definitely parts in this book that were brilliant, that I loved so much, and then there were parts that, again, I was like, okay, I don't like these people. These are boring people, and I can't connect with them. But I think this is going to be a reread for me, because I think the third time I try reading this, I will enjoy it even more. It's a woman whose family's home for COVID, and they're all sitting around. She's telling them a story, like the story of her life, which was weird for me because I tell my children the story of my life like every day. I'm always talking about my life and everything. Like, my kids know everything about me. So it's weird that all her kids are adults and they know very little about her life, and they're just so surprised that all these things are happening. I mean, they know some things that happened to her, but I guess she hasn't really been 100% honest with them about everything. In fact, they didn't even know how their parents met, which was very strange. And her kids are so annoying. They're not real people. They are a bunch of random personalities that were created to keep the story going, to ask questions. And I don't think that's how parents relate to their kids at all. Maybe some parents, I don't know, but didn't apply to me. But the story she told about her childhood was great, because she started out, she was in a community theater play, Our Town, where she played Emily, and then she got cast as Emily again, and she got seen, and she was cast in a movie, and then she was asked to audition on Broadway. So it's a great kind of build up. I really like that because I'm an actress also, and I go on auditions and I put myself out there. So I really connected to all that. But the part where she was telling the story, she just was so bored by it, and it made me feel confused. And I just yeah, I guess I'll read this one again at some point. I read Fair Play. This was actually last Saturday I read this. This is a new release, an ARC that came out last week. And it was odd. I don't feel like it's finished. Honestly, I don't think the author finished this book. There had to be another section. It's the first part is these people come together and they have a murder mystery party. Someone dies. They believe it's suicide. So they move on with their lives. They go figure out their grief and to question what happened. Could they have helped him? And then there's the part where the detective, it goes back in time, and it's during the time of Agatha Christie and Poirot. And there's a Poirot-like character who is trying to solve who murdered this man. And it is just bizarre because I don't want to spoil it in case you're interested, but then it's almost like a crash course in how detective books are written, and he's like, no, you can't do this because this is a detective book and these are the rules of detective fiction. And I thought that was kind of cute, but for all this to work, there had to be something else. I don't know what it is, but there had to be something else, and there wasn't something else. There was something, but I don't see how it made any sense to the general. I don't understand what this author was trying to do. I guess it's like meta. It's a very meta-like book, but it was, I don't know. I didn't like it. This is another book that I hated. I thought it started really good. I liked the writing a lot. I thought it was very interesting. It starts out, it introduces a murder of a little girl and her family, and we don't know who did it. Then it talks about, let's see, what's the second thing that happened? Oh, a man's daughter is murdered at his workplace. And then the third one is, what happens? What's the third one? I don't remember. A woman murders her husband. And there's this detective who had his own problems, his own things that he's dealt with. And he is hired to solve these 3 murders. And then at first it started really well. Like, I really liked the way it started. I was really into this book. But as they progressed, you got to know all the characters, and many of them were just so horribly annoying. And they kept talking about nonsense, and there was so much talk about sexual things. Not sex, but sexual things, like inappropriate stuff that I just didn't care about, that kind of threw me off. And it got worse and worse and worse as the book went on, to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Eventually the book ended, thankfully. But then he solved all the mysteries, but none of it was interesting. None of the mysteries were meaningful to me. Like, I just didn't care. It was all kind of like whatever. So there was nothing that really excited me about this book. It was just an exploration of these random murders, and I don't know. I just didn't like it. And then the last book I finished was Kazuo Ishiguro's An Artist of the Floating World. And again, this is a book that I picked up years ago and maybe got like a little bit into and then put it back. But this time I read it all the way through and I loved it. I loved this book. This book was amazing. This is definitely one of the better books that I've read. So I'm actually going to rank them afterwards. And this is one of the better books. This is brilliant, and this is definitely a reread for me. This has so much profound reflection on the totalitarian government, the effect it has on creative people who need to choose a side and for whatever reason they end up on the wrong side of history in the end, even though they thought they were doing everything right. And I thought this was very interesting, and it really reminded me of The Remains of the Day, where the main character kind of explores his employer who was kind of in the same boat. So this is not, I wouldn't say this is an exciting, fun thriller. This is a slow, boring, brilliant exploration of the human mind and post-war regret. So anyway, let's see, I'm gonna sort these books. So I'm gonna say, well, this is the best and this is the worst. Tom Lake, I would say brilliant enough to reread, but didn't love. Let's see. Yeah, so let's see, what are my categories? I would say, like, these are the best books that I read. These are, I didn't love them, but maybe I would love them if I reread them. And then this category is books that I didn't hate, but I'm not sure if I want to reread, and this is just hate. And then, yeah, I do want to get some finished copies. And then I do need to recharacterize my love section. I think I would love this one more on a reread. Same thing with this one. Okay, so let's see. I got to separate these between loved, brilliant to like almost brilliant. Let's see. Was this 100% brilliant or almost brilliant? I think I would need to reread it in order to make that decision. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say that The Artist of the Floating World was brilliant. White Tiger, Netanyahu's Mostly Harmless, and Vladimir. These are all amazing. I love these books. These are my favorite books of 2025 so far. In next place comes Exit West, Show Don't Tell, Ministry of Time, and The Resurrectionist. All great books. I liked them a lot. I really enjoyed them, but I think I need to reread them in order to put them in the brilliant category. And then, again, these are books that I thought were great, but I really need to reread. Why is Tom Lake in here? Sorry, I gotta move Tom Lake. Okay, so I would put The Maniac in this category. I would need to read this one more time. Oh, this is the problem with making categories. I just have to move everything around. Yeah, so, yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, these are almost brilliant. Almost. I think, yeah, this is the category where I really need to read it one more time in order to decide, is this brilliant? Then these are books that I think I want to reread. Yeah, I want to reread. But I didn't love them. And then these books, I'm not sure if I want to unhaul, but I probably should just unhaul them and cut my losses. And then these books are just the worst. The worst. I'm ready to unhaul. I have no doubt that I dislike these books. So anyway, those are my categories. And that is my first 4 months of 2025 reading wrap up. Thank you.